Our last segment, we're going to talk about Hollywood movies. I've mentioned several times that I am a filmmaker. I am not a Hollywood filmmaker. I'm not even an Atlanta filmmaker because that's still kind of Hollywood, right? Even though I'm here in Georgia, we've kind of got our own thing going on down here. One of the criticisms that Hollywood's been facing for several years now, even before the pandemic, was they're making these huge blockbuster films with these huge blockbuster budgets. But now they've been so focused on, I'll say, their agenda, their messaging, or whatever, that the films just are not that good. But they're still using a huge budget and not getting as great of a return. And that's a lot of Disney. That's your Marvels, your Pixars, what's the other thing that they just got? Marvel, Pixar, well, Disney in general, right? With like the Snow White they're working on, not looking too great there. Sony's got Madam Web that's just come out on Valentine's Day. I'll be probably doing something about that one just cause. So keep an eye out for it. I'll give my comment and feedback on that. But yeah, they're putting hundreds of millions of dollars into these films, and they're not getting a return back on it. Found an article here from Bounding Into Comics. It says Godzilla Minus One director, and I'm going to butcher it, Takashi Yamazaki, dunks on Marvel Studios' big budget inefficiency. And to be fair, again, it's not just Marvel. It's not even just Disney. It's just a lot of folks. They are just dumping so much into these films, right? So it's been over 2 months since Godzilla Minus One made its way into theaters, and people are still in disbelief at the amount of money it took to achieve such a cinematic feat. American audiences have become so accustomed to watching massive budget superhero movies that cost nothing short of $250 million to produce and only get lukewarm reactions from audiences. Superhero movies have become nothing more than actors in costumes standing in front of blue screens, while the overwhelming majority of the film isn't completed until post-production VFX teams make the film look as presentable as they can in a short period. This business model drives the cost of the biggest movies of the year to explode to 9 figures, which is the primary reason why so many major studios are losing billions of dollars, billions with a B, billions of dollars every year on movies that the interest does not match the amount of money sunk into the project. Go away. When a Godzilla movie from Japan comes along and claims to have been able to produce an entire feature film for less than $15 million, it is understandable why American audiences are in disbelief at such a claim. How can they make a film like Godzilla Minus One that looks so good yet only costs 1/16 of what your average Marvel movie costs to produce? Godzilla Minus One director Takashi Yamazaki, again, sorry, continues to pour salt in the wounds of Western filmmakers by not only sticking to his claim that the film only cost a total of $12 million to produce, but the production was able to pull this off without having to cut corners on luxuries for the cast and crew on set of the movie. In a recent sit-down with Vulture, Yamazaki said his team underlined that working conditions were pretty comfortable during the making of Minus One, despite the small budget. He claimed, "One thing that I will say is that we had our company do a pretty nice renovation and overhaul of this office floor because once we knew that we were going to work on a Godzilla project, we knew that we were going to be spending significant hours together. We made it more comfortable and cozy. We spent some budget building out a kitchen." He continued, "We have a designated sushi chef." For those that like sushi, my daughter loves sushi. "We have a designated sushi chef in the kitchen. We really try to avoid long hours, but if you do, it's a very welcoming environment in which to spend a few extra hours. Hopefully in due time, VFX budget increases will allow for more improvements. I am looking forward to the day I butcher that whole sentence." So the point is that these guys are spending significantly less money, cranking out big feature projects, and getting a significant return on it. You don't have to spend all that money. A lot of it is over-bloated costs. I mean, I forget if it was Nerdrotic or Critical Drinker I was watching the other day, and they were talking about this as well, that there's so many names in the credits that pretty much do nothing. So many different people that do nothing. And again, this is coming from someone who's small-time, little itty-bitty filmmaker. Again, the biggest budget film I ever made was, I think, I made it for $900. So I'm nobody, and I'm making nothing in a sense, but everybody had fun, and we didn't overwork anybody, I don't think, or at least they didn't tell me. But we could easily get a return on that if I were to put it out somewhere. It's on YouTube and Rumble and everywhere. You can go check it out for free, along with all my other stuff. I just put it out there. Eventually, maybe one day, we'll make something that we can get distributed. That would be wonderful. In fact, now's a good time to kind of reach out to folks like us, I think, because we can make a lot for a little, and would love the opportunity to do so. And I think the American audience, maybe the world audience, but definitely the American audience, is looking for that creativity to come back. The Back to the Futures, the Ghostbusters, all the chances that were taken on things that weren't sequels, prequels, or the like. The only sequel that I know about, and I talked about this last week, that I'm actually looking forward to is the sequel to 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, which is 28 years later, largely because it's got a lot of the original people working on the project again. So I am looking forward to that. But a lot of the Marvel stuff that comes out now, I haven't even seen. Endgame was pretty much the end for me. It was a huge movie, but the huge budget it had made it where it wasn't super profitable. In fact, this is an article on that from MovieWeb. And this is an older article because it was around the time this came out. Joker by Todd Phillips was set to earn almost as much profit as Avengers Endgame. And I won't read through the whole article here. Again, anytime I mention articles, videos, whatever, the links to those will always be in the description below. Go check them out. You can always read behind me, get your thoughts on it, make sure I'm not skipping over and cherry picking stuff, and see if it's a credible source. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe you like another one. That's on you. That's your thing. That's fine. But yeah, the reason Joker had a significantly smaller budget, made almost $1 billion. Actually, now they may have even crossed over with, streaming and rentals and, whatever. But, and that movie was amazing. In fact, I've got a little thing right here. My wife got me a little gift from that movie. I loved it so much. This wasn't planned, but yeah, I've got... Look, if I can buy it on Blu-ray or DVD, I'm going to. I'm not going to trust Netflix or Disney or HBO or whatever to always keep it. So I'm purchasing hard copies of movies I love. And I don't do that as much anymore because there's not a ton of movies out there that I do love. But Joker, please. It was a cinematic masterpiece from the acting, the story, and one of my favorite things as a filmmaker was the cinematography. Loved the cinematography of it. I am trying so hard to learn how to do cinematography like that, as cinematography is apparently one of my focal specialty areas in the filmmaking world. And when we all work together, that tends to be where I lean most. But my point is, back to this, sorry, had to make it about me for just a minute. But the point is that they've got these huge actors that are costing millions of dollars. Then sometimes they get a percentage of the overall product, the finished product, right? Then you got all these investors because your studio's broke because you've made so many woke movies or garbage movies just in general, and you're doing everything you can to make these films, and they're lackluster because you're putting all kinds of things first except for the story. You're not putting the audience first, that's for sure. You're trying to virtue signal, or you're pushing the message of what you're pushing, or whatever it is. You're not trying to tell a good story, and so the return on it is not what you're hoping for. I think we can take a big lesson from Godzilla Minus One over in Japan. I had a conversation with a friend the other night. We were talking about maybe the price is a lot cheaper there, like they have sweatshops or something where they're cranking out VFX. I don't think that's the case in Japan. Could be wrong, could be, completely misunderstanding that. But I do think our VFX houses are overworked here because they're creating everything from the suits to lighting to the backdrop, replacing the backdrop, doing everything, literally everything in the film. Whereas a film probably like Godzilla Minus One, they're just adding smoke filler over here or an explosion over there, and then maybe using miniatures and stuff where they can. All that plays a big role. And if you do it right, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg, especially all the time and energy it takes to do VFX. I am not a specialty at that. I don't like to do that. So everything I shoot is as practical can possibly be.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this clip from the Morning Mayhem. Remember, this is just a portion of the full show that comes out every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you hadn't already, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the full shows or these tasty little nuggets.